You are new to academic writing and are unsure how to cite references in a research paper? Then you've come to the right place, because in this video you will find all the answers. I will give you an overview of 4 different types of citations that you can use in your paper and how to do it. After this video, you will have everything you need to know about citations and can start your writing journey. And now, without further ado, welcome to Shribe. Citing correctly is not difficult, in case you think it is. The rules and conventions that come with specific citation styles are just a simple technique that requires a bit of diligence and practice. But after you have done it once, it becomes very easy. You don't need to be afraid of making citation errors in your first research paper, because if you follow the guidelines of the required citation style, you can't go wrong really. Additionally, there are plenty of useful tools that can take care of citations for you. My general recommendation is to cite manually until you understand what you're doing, and then introduce a software to get rid of a lot of repetitive work and save lots of time. Now, if you're sitting in front of your paper and want to incorporate your gathered text snippets into the document, you should definitely answer the following question. Which citation style is requested for my assignment? Sometimes you can answer it yourself by searching for the conventions for academic papers on the homepage of your school or department. If you want to publish your paper in an academic journal or in conference proceedings, the website of the publication outlet or the paper template will tell you what citation style they request. But back to the situation in which you prepare your paper as an assignment. If you can't find the information online, you should definitely clarify with your advisor which citation style you can agree on for your paper or thesis. This question should not be missed. If you choose a citation style that your advisor or instructor doesn't like or know, it can lead to unpleasant surprises in the evaluation. Different research disciplines have certain commonly used and respected citation styles. It would be tedious to argue which one is best. Each discipline has its own requirements. Therefore, it is essential that you choose the style that is most desired in your discipline. In the humanities, the Chicago style, which uses footnotes, is often used. Social sciences tend to favor the APA style, but business administration scholars have their own preferences and like the Harvard style. But this is not a general rule. The most obvious difference is whether to place references directly in the text or in footnotes below the text. Additionally, in-text citations are sometimes represented as numbers. This is a preferred style in computer science or engineering. If your department has a well-organized online presence, you will find a guide for the corresponding citation styles there. I have also linked guidelines for the most important styles below this video. It's best to download and print the appropriate guide if you are using a style for the first time. From now on, always stick to the guide. Identify the type of source or reference and look for the corresponding entry in the guide. This could be a book, a journal, article, and so on. This is important because each type appears differently in the bibliography. Proceed in this manner until you have properly cited all your references. After citing a journal article multiple times, you will eventually memorize the details and won't need to look them up anymore. At this point, you are ready to introduce a literature management software like Zotero, Mendeley, or EndNote. Just do it. It's worth it. Now let's talk about the different ways you can integrate citations into your text. If you've already written an academic paper before, at least 2 of these methods should sound familiar to you. If one of them is new to you, great. It will bring more variety to your next paper. The secret to good citation lies in finding a balanced mix of different methods. If you use the same technique to incorporate references into your text every time, it won't create any surprise. However, if you occasionally insert a quote that spans more than 3 lines, for example, it not only adds visual appeal to your text, but also allows you to emphasize important insights from the literature. So what are the different types of citations you can use? 1. Direct quote. This type of referencing is probably the most popular way to include text from a reference. You literally reproduce a passage from your source and smoothly integrate it into your own text. The concept can be defined as the perception of an unpredictable event, and so on. If you cannot find a suitable transition going from your own text to the quote, you can simply use a colon. If your direct quotes exceed 3 complete lines in your text, you should indent them. This not only enhances readability, but also serves as a nice design element for your text, providing some variety. However, be careful not to overdo it with direct quotes, as too many of these long quotes may make your instructor doubt your ability to express complex passages in your own words. This approach makes the most sense when there is no better formulation than the original quote, such as with definitions. Furthermore, the passage should be particularly noteworthy as you are necessarily highlighting it visually. 2. An indirect quote or paraphrasing. This method is probably the most commonly used technique to incorporate external content into your own paper. Direct quotes are nice, but they can interrupt the flow of reading sometimes. Academic papers refer to so many external sources that it would be impossible to directly quote them all. Moreover, by using indirect quotes, you can cite more than one reference for a sentence or paragraph you have written. This emphasizes that you have engaged with the literature. Additionally, it can be helpful to present multiple sources as evidence behind a statement, especially when you want to emphasize that the majority of authors agree on a certain matter and there is a consensus. An indirect quote is always expressed in your own words. This is also known as paraphrasing. So it's simply just a fancy word for rephrasing. It is extremely important not to copy content word by word, otherwise you might attract the attention of the plagiarism police. But don't panic. As long as you consistently cite your sources and use your own words, you don't need to worry about plagiarism accusations. Some instructors are just happy when sources are mentioned at all. And various internet services fuel panic to sell their magical plagiarism checking software. Here's an example of an indirect quote. If you're using a citation style with footnotes, instead of using parentheses with the author's names, you simply place multiple footnotes one after another at the end of the sentence. Sometimes references are used as stylistic devices to refer to further literature or similar ideas. Such a reference makes sense when you want to draw attention to a similar or contrasting result from other literature. In the reference, you simply include CF, which is short for compare in Latin. Now let's move on to the last possibility of how you can incorporate quotes or citations into your paper, which is for quoting within a quote. If you find a good quote in literature but you can't access the original source, instead of stealing the quote, you indicate the source from which you took it. Of course, you can also research the original source and cite the passage as usual. However, it can happen that you don't have access or the source is untraceable. It's also not a problem if you take the quote from another source. On the contrary, it adds more variety to your text. Either way, you should not overdo it and repeat this approach too often. The best option is always to find and cite the original source. it is particularly important not to distort the original quote. To cite it correctly, don't swap words or take the original quote out of context. Before we get to the bibliography, please consider to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of this type of content. Now, how are the sources listed in the bibliography at the end of the paper? Again, turn to the appropriate style guide for your citation style. Journal articles, books, or internet sources are all treated differently in the bibliography. To properly cite the references there, grab your style guide or use your literature management software, which does it automatically, and off you go on the wild ride. There's nothing more enjoyable than searching through your bibliography for missing punctuation or page numbers after hours of writing. Believe me, I've been there, done that. I won't do it again. Now, to sum things up, we've learned that there are 4 different ways you can incorporate quotes into your academic paper. Direct quotes, which reproduce the exact wording in quotation marks. Indirect quotes, which paraphrase the thoughts of other authors. CF references, which refer to supporting or conflicting literature. And you can sometimes cite a quote from another text when the original source is untraceable. I hope you were able to take something new from this video, and good luck with your next paper.